So what do you do in multiple offer situations? When do you walk away and just forget about it and move on to the next house? All these answers and more are coming right up. Hey everyone, Andrew here with the Lake Team in Houston, Texas. Welcome back to another video that we have for you today. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. We do our best to produce the best real estate content for you each and every week. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into today's topic, which is multiple offer situations and how to handle them. When do you walk away and when do you go for it, right? When do you keep going? So, man, we got price, we have title policy, we have HOA, we have days on the market, closing costs. Like, oh my God, what the hell is all this stuff? Like, there's a ton of stuff to cover. There's a ton of stuff to unwrap. I'm gonna try to keep this video short and sweet and to the point. So in multiple offer situations, there's a lot of things that are gonna take into consideration. We had one video that we made not too long ago about how to make the winning offer. This video is kind of gonna piggyback off that a little bit. I'm not gonna go into too much depth, but there are some things in the offer that you can kind of twist, you can kind of make to your advantage to make the offer a little bit more appealing. Price obviously is a big one. We see a lot of people go ahead and they'll write an offer of $17,000, $20,000, $30,000 over list price. I mean, it's insane right now. Then again, this is 2021, so depending on whenever you're watching this video, things may have changed for the better or for the worse, who knows. But at this point, we're seeing buyers make offers well over list price in multiple offer situations. So price is a big one. Now that's something that you need to consider for yourself. If you want to make a hefty price or a hefty offer over their asking price, because you need to make sure the house is going to appraise for one, because if it doesn't appraise, buyers, you or the sellers have a decision to make. Either the seller is going to come down to the appraised value or you're going to pay the difference, which is it could be pretty substantial. Just for example, we had one that we sold $17,000 over list price. We were on the listing side of things, and the buyers put an addendum with that offer that anything that it appraised, if it appraised below contract price, that they were going to cover the difference, and they ended up having to cover the difference of $10,000 on top of their down payment. So keep that in mind. That's not something that the lender is going to finance. You have to come out with that money out of pocket for yourself. Which kind of sucks, but I mean, if you really want the property and you have the means to make it happen, man, go for it. So title policy was one of them. In that particular case, the title policy was paid for by the buyer. So on top of the additional $10,000 they had to come up with, they also had to come up with a few extra grand for the title policy. And typically down here in the state of Texas or in the Houston area, for example, it's customary for the sellers to pay the seller's title policy. But in this particular case, we had, I think it was like 8 offers on this house, and the sellers chose the one with the biggest price. That addendum that I just told you about, that they're going to cover the difference of the appraised value, and they were going to pay for the seller's title policy, which was actually pretty cool on the listing side. So those are some of the things you're going to be battling up against. Now, a couple other smaller things, you have HOA, the type of loan. Actually, the type of loan is kind of a big one. Now, if it's a, let's say, conventional loan versus FHA or VA, FHA and VA loans can require certain things to be repaired. So if the house is in no need of any kind of repairs, meaning that it's pretty habitable, nothing like no wood rotting anywhere, then you're good to go. But sometimes the VA appraisers and FHA appraisers will make that a condition and then force the seller to make those repairs in order for you to close. So in multiple offer situations, if the house really isn't remodeled or the house isn't just completely repaired, or there is some damage to it, any minor small damage, it could make that loan, I guess, less appealing, if you will. It's not really the best thing to say, but it is kind of the truth. If the sellers, if you have a conventional loan or a cash offer versus an FHA and a VA, and the house needs some work, the sellers are well aware, or the listing agent, if they did their job correctly, they're going to let the seller know that, hey, if you go with VA or FHA or any kind of government-backed loan, there's a possibility that you're going to be forced to repair some items if it ever did come back. Now, like I said, if the property is fully remodeled and there's no repairs like that, no wood rot or damage or anything, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about that. The loan type does make a big difference. There's a common misconception that VA and FHA appraisers typically appraise houses lower than conventional does, and that's really not the case. I haven't seen that lately at all. That's really not the case here, so that's a common misconception or a myth, if you will. Our VA appraisers that we've worked with in the past have done a really great job. But anyways, let's moving on. So earnest money and option period, the amount that you're going to put down on your down payment is a big one. Let's go over down payment, for example. The more that you put down as a down payment, the seller is going to feel that you're a pretty strong buyer. And not everybody can put 40, 50, or 80,000, 100,000 plus down on a property for their down payment. So that's a big one. It's just a lot of the situation you can't. There's not a lot of people who can do that, but if you can, more power to you. That's one way to win in multiple offer situations, is just put more money down. It shows that you're a solid buyer. It shows that you're more than well qualified to purchase the property. So you might have a appealing advantage, I guess you could say, over other people the more you put down. Earnest money, typically 1% is what we see. 1% of the purchase price is what the earnest money would be. Now, if you wanted to, again, if you wanted to make the offer more appealing, then you would put more than 1% down. That even shows that you're even a stronger buyer. So now that you have a hefty down payment, you have maybe 2 or 3% earnest money deposit put down, which is a good faith, right? That you're going to purchase the property. That's what earnest money is. So that's one way to show that you're a strong buyer and that you're a serious buyer at that. So that's one way to do it. So now you have, let's go over your pre-approval letter, your financing. Well, we did talk about financing type. And that appraisal addendum that I just talked about, that's a big one too, especially in today's market. That's a pretty big one. If you have the means to do it and you really want the property, that's one way to do it. If there's multiple offers on that house, you could say that, again, like, hey, you're asking 300 and I know there's multiple offers, so I'm going to offer you 325, and if it doesn't appraise, then I'll pay the difference. That's what that appraisal addendum is going to say. That's not really something I'm going to advise against or advise for. That's completely up to you and how much you want the property, and if you have the means to do it. Again, not a lot of people have those means to do it, but if you can and you want to, more power to you. You'll get the property that you ever so deserve. So another big one that we see is a contingency. So what a contingency is, do you have a house to sell in order to be able to purchase a new one? That's a big one, right? So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts going around on both buying and selling sides of things. And so if you have a contingency, that make your offer look less appealing, because you have to sell a house in order to buy theirs. So put yourself in the seller's shoes, for example. If you had 2 identical offers, one was yours, one was someone that's competing against you to buy the house, right? And that you have a contingency, meaning that you have to sell your house in order to buy theirs, but they don't. Your competitors don't have a contingency. They don't have a house to sell in order to buy theirs. Which one would you go for? You would probably go for the one that doesn't have a contingency, right? It's just the name of the game. Again, a lot of people need to sell their house before they can buy a new one, which that's pretty standard. But if you absolutely have to have a contingency in place in order to, you have to sell your house in order to buy the new one, that contingency, it looks better whenever you are under contract with a buyer already and you are already out of your option. The buyer's moving forward with them. Now, if you just went under contract, the buyer for your house is still, going through their inspection period, their option periods, then that's less appealing to the seller's house that you're trying to buy, because, there's still too many unknowns. Will the buyer back out? Who knows, right? But again, if you're past the option period, it looks better. You're X amount of days away from closing, which is pretty nice for them. It gives them a little bit more reassurance that, hey, the buyers for your house are a little further along than maybe most people are. So if you must have a contingency, that's one way we like to see things, is if you have the buyer under contract already and they're past their option period, they're moving forward, you probably got like 2 weeks left before you're closing on the house. All right, so we'll move into the next one, which is a personal letter to the seller. Now, I did touch on this on my previous video when it came to writing the winning offer. Again, personal letters to the seller, there's a real gray zone right there when it comes to being considered as discrimination or potential discrimination. So you got to be really careful with that. We have written personal letters to sellers in multiple offer situations before, just explaining, your situation, that you love the house, and maybe try to find some connect with them. Like, hey, I saw that you worked in oil and gas. My husband or my wife works in oil and gas, or I work in oil and gas, whatever the case is. So trying to find a connection with the seller, and maybe that'll kind of persuade the seller to kind of accept your offer because they like you better than or they like you right? But then again, like I said, there's a real gray area right now when it comes to personal letters to sellers. I will make a video about that once we learn more what the stance is with the National Association of Realtors. But just know that it is a gray area. It can be done, but you may want to leave out anything that's a protected class, like your sex, your race, your religion. You want to leave that kind of stuff out, the way there's no room for any kind of discrimination. No one can come back and sue everybody if the buyers were mad, or if one of the people that lost out to you, if they're mad, they can't sue everybody. So there's a fine line to doing that. But like I said, I'll know more whenever I get some more information from the National Association of Realtors on personal letters to sellers. A big one is when to walk away. So there comes a time when it's just, maybe you shouldn't even submit an offer. Maybe there's already like 20 offers on the table, and you already know dang well everyone's going to be, at least over asking price somewhere. So you have to make the decision of when is it best to just walk away, period. Like, when is it best to just get out and, find another house, basically, right? And you don't want to overpay for a house too much, because then you're underwater. And if you ever needed to sell it, then you're kind of SOL at that point, right? Because you paid, so say for example, $30,000 more than what it was worth. And so if you ever really needed to sell the property, you might be in a pickle. Who knows? But I mean, shoot, if the way things are going right now, you may recoup that 30 grand and just be able to not even cut your losses, just be breaking even at that point. But so you just need to understand when to walk away. Like, are you comfortable with paying 30K over? For example, are you comfortable paying $30,000 over their asking price, or over the appraised value, or whatever it is? Or are you not okay with it? If you're not okay with it, it may be best just to walk away. Or even before we even talk about submitting an offer, do they already have 12 offers on the table, right? It may be best to walk away. Maybe our position is to try to get you at that top point, or that top level of where you're comfortable with, and then negotiate them down. But if we can't negotiate off the sales price, then it may be best for our situation to just completely walk away and go find another house that we can get you a better deal on. But all these things kind of just, everyone is unique, and everyone's situation is different. Every client's different, everyone's different and unique, right? So it all depends on what you're comfortable with, what you want to move with, and what you don't want to move with. That's pretty much it. That pretty much wraps up the multiple offer situations. It's going to wrap up this video for today. Try to keep it short and sweet. There's a lot more to this, and it goes into the depth with each one of those things I said when it comes to price, title policies, survey, HOA fees, days to close, home warranties, down payments, option periods, all that kind of stuff takes into account, especially price. All that stuff takes into account. But we can go more into depth. If you want more in-depth conversations about this, reach out to me. I'll leave my information in the description below. You can go to our website if you want to check us out from there. And then my information will be on there as well. You can reach out to us directly. You can email us, call us, shoot us a text. Either way, we're good. There's a way to contact us. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Like I said in the beginning of this video, best real estate content that we can to you each and every week. That way we can do our best to educate buyers and sellers across the world. That's going to wrap it up for today. I'm Andrew with the Lake Team here in Houston, Texas, and I will see you next time, friends.